So yesterday, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Ross Baraka, was arrested while peacefully protesting at a ICE facility, and we have some footage here of his arrest, and then we're going to talk more about this. Roll the clip.
Hold it. Back up!
So do y'all remember when Donald Trump said that we're going to have to put an end to the weaponization of government? What he actually meant was we're just going to flip the script and we're going to go after our political opponents. And I really believe that all of this is being done to try to take everyone's attention away from the fact that they were the real criminals to start with. You're talking about a 34-time convicted felon, a man found liable of sexual abuse, a man who led his followers to have an insurrection at the Capitol. This is the guy now that's flipping the script, and I really believe a lot of the reason why we're seeing judges arrested and now a mayor is so that he can flip the script and say, see here, these were the real criminals all along. But I want to take you now to this clip of Ross Baraka responding to his arrest, because there is a lot of misinformation out there being spread around by people like Alina Habba and other MAGA. So let's hear from Ross Baraka about his arrest. Take a look.
Alina Habba, who, just for people who may not be familiar, she's President Trump's former attorney. She is now the interim U.S. attorney in New Jersey, in your state. The way she puts what happened today is she is accusing you of ignoring multiple warnings from Homeland Security investigations to remove yourself, and says that you chose to, quote, disregard the law. Is that true? Had there been warnings? What had happened?
Well, absolutely not. I mean, we could. The reality is, Alina Habba wasn't there. The U.S. attorney wasn't there. She doesn't know what happened. Clearly, that is not the context of what happened. I was there for over an hour in that space, and nobody ever told me to move. I was in there for over an hour. Not a single person, not an officer from ICE, not any of the security guards. Nobody told me to leave that place. Somebody from Homeland Security came in the end and began to escalate the situation, and we wound up being where we are today. And that's, frankly, the extent of it. I didn't go there to break any laws. I didn't break any laws. I was there as the mayor of the city, exercising my right and duty as an elected official, supporting our Congress people, preparing for a press conference that was supposed to happen there. I did not enter that place unlawfully. I did not break any laws, and so all of that is incorrect. So she was not there, so she should get some better information.
So anytime that you hear anyone out there saying that Ross Baraka was being disruptive, or he disobeyed the law, or he was breaking the law, you got to remember that these are the same people who showed us footage from January 6th of the other side of the building and tried to say that it was a peaceful day that day and everyone was just singing Kumbaya. But I've got a clip I want to play right here from Representative Robert Hernandez. He delivered this speech after the arrest of Baraka, and he makes a really good point right here. Take a look.
It was an act of intimidation. It was an act of intimidation not just to the mayor, not just to us, but to everyone watching. We know what ICE has been doing in our communities. We know that the president lied and this administration lies every day when they're saying they're going after criminals. It is not true. They feel no weight of the law. They feel no restraint on what they should be doing. And that was shown in broad daylight today when they not just arrested the mayor of Newark, but when they put their hands on two members of Congress who are standing behind me. How is this acceptable to anyone in this country? How is this acceptable?
He's right. This was nothing more than an attempt to intimidate, an attempt to scare everyone. They want to stop people from protesting, and they figure if they go after a mayor and people like that, then it will make more people afraid to go out and protest at these places. But I say that we cannot back down. We have to keep pushing forward. We have to keep letting our voices be heard, regardless of the intimidation that they're going to try to throw upon us. And again, I really believe that a lot of this is them trying to flip the script now, because they're the true criminals and they're trying to paint anyone who disagrees with them as such. Now, this all happened just a day or two after Stephen Miller made these remarks about how that the Trump administration is considering suspending habeas corpus, which is your due process. And this isn't just for immigrants, folks. This would be for everybody. This would be for all of us. This is those red flags that we've been trying to point to forever. We weren't being hyperbolic back then when we said this type of stuff would be happening. It's happening, and here he is saying it. Take a look.
Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. At the end of the day,
Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who's going to say, Brando, that just applies to immigrants. That don't mean us. You're being hyperbolic, man. They wouldn't let him do that. What you got to understand is once habeas corpus is suspended, it goes for every single one of us. It goes for mayors. It goes for judges. It goes for politicians. It goes for journalists. It goes for YouTubers. It goes for media networks. It goes for anyone who disagrees with Donald Trump. And we've already seen how fragile he is in the sense that he cannot take any criticism. We've covered here on the channel how he's went after MSNBC. We've talked about the arrest of the judge. We've showed every case of him going after people who disagrees with him. This is the ultimate weaponization of government. Before, it was Donald Trump being held accountable for what he did and for what we all saw him do right out in the open, and now he's just pulling anything he can out of his ass, and when he pulls away habeas corpus, then it can be anybody, including anyone in MAGA who steps out of line. Because you got to go back and think about when Elon Musk, look at the people who stepped out of line with him and was immediately banned from Twitter or immediately silenced. And remember Laura Loomer saying, wait a minute, I'm one of you. I'm MAGA. Why am I being silenced? Why am I being shut down? Well, it's because when you step out of line with them, that's what happened. So everybody might be having a fun time with the little cult, and they may be feeling all warm and fuzzy inside as they watch people they disagree with be arrested. But what they got to understand is they themselves will never be able to step out of line, because if they do, they're going to be arrested right along with the very people that they hate the most. So they really need to stop and think about that. And I'm going to bring up this article here from MidasNews.com, because Aaron Parnas, another one who has been threatened recently. He's had a lot of right-wing influencers going after him, and they're wanting Pam Bondi to arrest him because he shared a story about an upcoming ICE raid. So now they're going after people like Aaron, and so we have to stand strong with people like that in these times. And this article here is by him. And like I said, everybody, we got to stand with people like this, and we got to stand together now more than ever. So, White House considers suspending the writ of habeas corpus. This is extremely serious. And again, folks, this isn't me trying to be hyperbolic. This is not me just trying to flex at someone. So here we go. We have breaking news. Let's see, let me get this straightened out here. We have breaking news that demands your immediate attention, not just as a citizen, but as someone who believes in the basic architecture of a free society. Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff and ideological architect of some of the most extreme immigration and authoritarian policies of the last administration, has publicly stated that they are actively looking at suspending the writ of habeas corpus. Let me be clear, this is not a throwaway line. This is not political theater. This is a direct signal of intent to upend a core constitutional safeguard. Habeas corpus is Latin for you shall have the body, a legal principle dating back centuries, enshrined in Article 1, Section 9 of the United States Constitution. It ensures that if you are detained by the government, you have a right to challenge the legality of your detention in the court. It is the foundational protection against arbitrary imprisonment. Without it, the state can arrest and hold you indefinitely without charges, without trial, and without oversight. Now, let me ask you something. Where is this crowd that is always shouting about the tyrannical government? We have to rise up against the tyrannical government. Where are they now? You know, when an election didn't go their way, they were all about getting out there and making noise. They were all about beating up police officers. Now, they're just sitting back. You want to know why? Because this is the type of government they've always wanted. They've wanted a government that would run over top of anyone who they disagreed with. So their whole line about they were ever going to stand up against the tyrannical government, no. They were only going to stand up if the government disagreed with them, or they disagree with the government, they were never going to stand up for people like us. They've hated people like us from the beginning. I said all along that this was going to be a revenge presidency. That's exactly what it is, and they're enjoying it. But like I said earlier, they will enjoy it up until they realize that they too can never step out of line with the Stephen Millers and the Donald Trumps of the world. So the Constitution permits suspension of habeas corpus only in the cases of rebellion, invasion, or when public safety requires it under extreme conditions. And to date, it has only been suspended a handful of times in U.S. history, most notably by Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War, and briefly during World War II with the internment of Japanese Americans. To even discuss its suspension today, when there is neither rebellion nor invasion, is a brazen violation of democratic norms. The statement didn't come out of nowhere. It follows an escalating rhetoric from Trump allies about mass deportations, the use of the military for domestic enforcement, and the criminalization of dissent. Suspending habeas corpus would be the legal mechanism to detain asylum seekers or political opponents without due process, prevent legal challenges to government detention, accelerate the machinery of authoritarian control. This isn't hyperbole, it is a roadmap, so we must be very, very clear. Suspending habeas corpus without legal basis is not governance. That is a great article from Aaron, and like I said, we will be standing with him regardless. And of course, they're trying to spin this that we're being invaded. That's how they're trying to spin this, but folks, that's not the case. This is them wanting to weaponize the government. And think about this. If they do away with that, and they can lock people up with no trial, with no questioning it, because here's the problem. Every time they have had to go to trial, they lose. They lose when they get in there because they're not upholding the law. So if they do away with this, then we truly are living in a North Korean nightmare. And again, folks, this isn't me trying to be hyperbolic or spin this or get people worked up. That's not what this is about. This is something that should alarm all Americans, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum. I don't care how far to the right or the left or in the middle you stand or how apolitical you may be. To all the people who are apolitical and just sits back and I don't really get into it, I don't argue politics, this could affect you too. And this could happen to anyone in any scenario. Once it's gone, once it's suspended, you really don't even have to be a political opponent of Trump. You really don't have to be a political opponent of anyone. You don't have to be anything like that. You could just be someone that your local government has it out for. You could be anyone who they take off the streets and go, yep, no trial for you. And that is not the American way. It was never supposed to be. And to these people who claims and wants to thump on the Constitution every day and claim to be constitutionalists and claim to be against a tyrannical government, well, the government is looking pretty damn tyrannical at the moment. You need to wake up and realize that this is not about us trying to be hyperbolic. It's not even about us trying to win the next election. It's about us trying to point out just how serious that this moment truly is. I know there's a lot of people. Hell, I get messages every day from people dying to see me in jail, dying to see me locked away. Hell, they might get their wish, but if you ever actually valued what America stood for, regardless of whether you agree with a word that me or Aaron Parnas, the Midas Touch Network, or anyone else has to say, you should stop and pause long and hard. Is this the kind of America you want to live in? Do you want to be in North Korea or do you want to be here? We have to stand up now more than ever, folks, and we have to stick together, and we will. And thanks for listening.